Welcome, everyone. We are live tonight. We are reading Out of This World by Neville Goddard, and we are on chapter 3, The Power of Imagination. Listen, I trust that each and every one of you had a great day today. I know me and my girl did. Hey, I am that deal, right? We had a great day, it was productive. But now, let me say this to you, right? We're going to go through things in life. We always are, because we just will. But when you are in the midst of it, this is what tomorrow's lesson will be because we're going to expand on it. But when you are in the midst of it, always hold fast to what is true. If you need to be reminded of what is true, come on out tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. Eastern Standard Time for morning inspiration, and we'll talk about it. Howdy, Cyber. I see you, honey. Listen, in honor of you, we have the giraffe on tonight. It's the little tongue from the giraffe that totally gets me, but I digress. Anyhow, wherever you are, unless, of course, you're driving, wherever you are, snuggle in. I will do my best to be as soothing and to be as calming for you. But you know, we get a little bit excited when we hear the word of God that stirs us up, right? So, Out of This World, chapter 3, Power of Imagination. Ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. John 8, verse 32. Men claim that a true judgment must conform to the external reality to which it relates. This means that if I were imprisoned or suggest to myself that I am free and succeed in believing that I am free, it is true that I believe in my freedom, but it does not follow that I am free, for I may be victim of illusion. Oh, we have to read that again. Men claim that a true judgment must conform to the external reality to which it relates. This means that if I were, while imprisoned, suggest to myself that I am free and succeed in believing that I am free, it is true that I believe in my freedom. But it does not follow that I am free, for I may be the victim of illusion. Good evening, Wisdom Almighty. But because of my own experiences, I have come to believe in so many strange things that I see little reason to doubt the truth of things that are beyond my experience. The ancient teachers warned us not to judge from appearances because, said they, the truth need not conform to the external reality to which it relates. They claimed that we bore false witness if we imagined evil against another, that no matter how real our belief appears to be, how truly it conforms to the external reality to which it relates, if it does not make free the one of whom we hold the belief, it is untrue and therefore a false judgment. If it does not make free the one of whom we hold the belief, it is untrue and therefore a false judgment. Oh. When people want you to take care of their world and everything in it 24/7, when people want you to take care of their world, and I'm just reading a comment. Hmm. Well, John, hello, Anthony. John, if you stick around, you will get the answer to this issue that you're having if you listen and you pay attention. So you are in the right place tonight. You might not believe it, but you are. So let us continue, yes? We are called upon to deny the evidence of our senses and to imagine as true of our neighbor that which makes him free. Ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. See, you have the answer there already in that one statement. We are called upon to deny the evidence of our senses and to imagine as true of our neighbor that which makes him free. So you got somebody who wants you to take care of them all the time? Deny your senses. Your senses tell you, oh my God, they're always asking me for help. Deny your senses and see them as being self sustainable. And if you see them as being self sustainable, they become self sustainable. Don't take my word for it, though. Test it for yourself. To know the truth of our neighbors, we must assume that he is already that which he desires to be. Any concept we hold of another that is short of his fulfilled desire will not make him free, and therefore cannot be the truth. Instead of learning my craft in schools where attending courses and seminars is considered a substitute for self acquired knowledge, my schooling was devoted almost exclusively to the power of imagination. I stayed for hours, imagining myself to be other than that which my reason and my senses dictated until the imagined states were vivid as reality. So vivid that passerby became but a part of my imagination and acted as I would have them. By the power of imagination, my fantasy led theirs and dictated to them their behavior and the discourse they held together, while I was identified with my imagined state. Man's imagination is the man himself, and the world, as imagination sees it, is the real world. But it is our duty to imagine all that is lovely and of good report. Philippians 4, verse 8. I'm sorry, guys. Banana King, you're a nutmeg tonight. You're being rather silly. But focus, focus. For the Lord seeth not as man seeth. Thank you, potato. The Lord looketh on the heart. 1 Samuel 16, verse 7. As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. What do you think of yourself? Oh, my stomach's growling. What do you think of yourself? Then so shall you be. Right? In meditation, when the brain grows luminous, I find my imagination endowed with the magnetic power to attract me to whatsoever I desire. Desire is the power imagination uses to fashion life about me as I fashion it within myself. Say it again, Angela. Desire is the power imagination uses to fashion my life about me as I fashion it within myself. As within, so without. That is the principle of correspondence. So let me highlight it because you know we have to say it again because it is so poignant. Desire is the power imagination uses to fashion life about me as I fashion it within myself. I first desire to see a certain person or scene, and then I look as though I were seeing that which I want to see. And the imagined state becomes objectively real. I desire to hear, and then I listen as though I were hearing. And the imagined voice speaks that which I dictate as though it had initiated the message. I could give you many examples to prove my arguments, to prove that these imagined states do become physical realities, but I know that my examples will awaken in all who have not met the like or who are not inclined towards my arguments a most natural incredulity. Well, nevertheless, experience has convinced me of the truth of the statement. He calleth those things which be not as though they were. Romans 4, verse 17. For I have, in intense meditation, called things that were not seen as though they were, and the unseen not only became seen, but eventually became physical realities. By this method, first desiring and then imagining that we are experiencing that which we desire to experience, we can mold the future in harmony with our desire. But let us follow the advice of the prophet and think only the lovely and the good. For the imagination waits on us as indifferently and as swiftly when our nature is evil as when it is good. I have set before thee this day life and good, and death and evil. Deuteronomy 30, verse 15. Choose life, y'all. Because as he says in here, the imagination doesn't care what you put in it. It will faithfully give it back to you, though. So, what are you putting into the imagination? That's why he says the imagination waits on us like a butler, hand and foot. It waits on us as indifferently and as swiftly when our nature is evil, also as when it is good. Desire and imagination are the enchanter's wand of fable, and they draw to themselves their own affinities. They break forth best when the mind is in a state akin to sleep. I have written with some care and detail the method I use to enter the dimensionally larger world. But I shall give one more formula for opening the door of the larger world. In a dream, in a vision of the night, when deep sleep falleth upon men in slumberings upon the bed, then he openeth the ears of men and sealeth their instruction. Job 33, verse 15 and 16. In dream, we are usually the servant of our vision rather than its master. But the internal fantasy of dream can be turned into an external reality. In dream, as in imagination or as in meditation, we slip from this world into a dimensionally larger world. And I know that the forms in dream are not flat two-dimensional images, which modern psychologists believe them to be. They are substantial realities of the dimensionally larger world, and I can lay hold of them. I have discovered that if I surprise myself dreaming, I can lay hold of any inanimate or stationary form of the dream: a chair, a table, a stairway, a tree, and command to awake while firmly holding on the object of the dream. I am pulled through myself with the distinct feeling of awakening from dream. I awaken in another sphere, holding the object of my dream, to find that I am no longer the servant of my vision, but its master. For I am fully conscious and in control of the movements of my attention. It is in this fully conscious state, when we are in control of the direction of thought, that we call things that are not seen as though they were. In this state, we call things by wishing and assuming the feeling of our wish fulfilled. Unlike the world of three dimensions, where there is an interval between our assumption and its fulfillment, I'm going to say it again, just in case you didn't hear me. Unlike the world of three dimensions, where there is an interval between our assumption and its fulfillment, in the dimensionally larger world, there is an immediate realization of our assumption. So in the 3D where we are right now, things move really slow. And they take a little bit of time before they can come together and take shape. That's what happens to us here in the physical realm. But you see, in the imaginary realm, it is instantaneous. How so? As soon as you see it in your mind's eye, you feel it in your body. Instantly, do you not? There's no delay. The external reality instantly mirrors our assumption. Here, there is no need to wait 4 months till harvest. John 4:35. We look again as though we saw, and lo and behold, the fields are already white to harvest. In this dimensionally larger world, ye shall not need to fight. Set yourselves. Stand ye still and see the salvation of the Lord with you. Second Chronicles 20, verse 17. And because that greater world is slowly passing through our three-dimensional world, we can, by the power of imagination, mold our world in harmony with our desire. Look as though you saw. Listen as though you heard. Stretch forth your imaginary hand as though you touched. And your assumptions will harden into facts. Listen to it again. Look as though you saw. Listen as though you heard. And reach out as though you touched. And the assumptions, the thing that you heard, the thing that you saw, the thing that you touched in your imagination will harden into fact. To those who believe that a true judgment must conform to the external reality to which it relates, this will be foolishness and a stumbling block. What? To those who believe that a true judgment must conform to the external reality to which it relates, well, this is foolishness and a stumbling block, meaning you look out onto the world. You don't have something right now, but you believe that if you feel it and you experience in imagination what you would experience in reality, that it is true. For you, that is real, and thus it happens. But if you say to yourself, wait a minute, that's foolishness. I can't just imagine and have it happen. Well, then this whole statement, because if you think about it, you're trying to say, well, that's not true, and only true things are shown. No. Do you know what true is? What you believe. As a man thinketh in his heart, therefore he is. As a man believeth in his heart, therefore he is. You believe it, it is true to you, and you will see the evidence of it. So if you keep thinking, oh, alas, I'm not good enough, what do you think you'll see the evidence of? People who confirm for you that you are not good enough at every turn. Listen, they will come out of the woodwork. Hmm. But what if you believe that you were exceedingly good, exceedingly valuable? Well, then those same people will show up to confirm to you that you are exceedingly valuable and rare and totally unique and such a blessing to have in this world. As within, so without. But I digress. But I preach and practice the fixing in consciousness of that which man desires to realize. Experience convinces me that fixed attitudes of mind, which do not conform to the external reality to which they relate, and are therefore called imaginary, things which are not, will nevertheless bring to naught things that are. You can make something out of nothing. It's not nothing. You believe it here, so it is something. Hmm. I do not wish to write a book of wonders, but rather to turn man's mind back to the one and only reality that the ancient teachers worshipped as God. All that was said of God was in reality said of man's consciousness. So we may say that according as it is written, he that glorieth, let him glory in his own consciousness. 1 Corinthians 1, verse 31, 2 Corinthians 10, verse 17 and 18. But let him that glorieth glory in this, that he understandeth and knoweth me, that I am the Lord, which exercise loving kindness, judgment, and righteousness in the earth. Jeremiah 9:24. No man needs help to direct him in the application of this law of consciousness. I am is the self definition of the absolute. the root out of which everything grows. I am the vine, John 15, verse 1 and 15, verse 5. What is your answer to the eternal question? Who am I? Who am I? Your answer determines the part you play in the world's drama. Who am I? I am, and your answer determines the part you play in the world's drama. Your answer, that is, your concept of yourself, need not conform to the external reality to which it relates. This great truth is revealed in the statements, let the weak say, I am strong. Those are not idle words. So he's telling you your answer, if your concept of yourself doesn't have to conform to the outside world. You have to believe it here. And as it is here, now the world will mold and shape itself. So who am I? That question, when you answer it, listen, the whole world will bend to you. Look back over the good resolutions with which many past New Years are encumbered. They lived a little while and then they died. Why? Because they were severed from their root. Assume that you are that which you want to be. That assumption is your root, and you are firmly rooted in it. Experience in imagination what you would experience in reality if you were the man or the woman you wanted to be. Remain faithful to your assumption so that you define yourself as that which you have assumed. Things have no life if they are severed from their roots. For all those out there who think you're eating food that is alive, the moment you cut it, the moment you pick it, it is now dead. This is the world of death, my friends. How so? How so? The moment you pick it, it is dead. It dies in the palm of your hand before you can get it in the basket. Why? Because it is no longer attached to the vine, to the root. So when you are anchored in the principles, now you're living life, right? So things have no life if they are severed from their roots. You know this. And our consciousness, our I amness, is the root of all that springs in our world. If we believe not that I am He, well, you shall die in your sins. John 8:24. The explanation is this: if I do not believe that I am already that which I desire to be, well, then I remain as I am. There's nothing more potent than that statement right now. If I do not believe that which I desire to be, if I don't believe that I am that which I desire to be, well, then I remain as I am. And then I die in that present concept of myself. It is not a physical death, it is a psychological one. Meaning, oh, you don't believe that you're any good? You know why you don't believe that you're no good? Because you believe that you're no good. You can't believe I'm good and I'm no good. No, choose one. Because you cannot have conflict within the self. One cannot have conflict within the self. So if you say, I am that, I am, well, then believe it and watch it unfold and become for you. I dare you. I digress. There is no power outside of the consciousness of man to resurrect and make alive that which man desires to experience. There is no power. outside of the consciousness of man, to resurrect and make alive that which man desires to experience. That man who is accustomed to calling up at will whatever images he pleases will be, by virtue of the power of his imagination, master of his fate. Oh, Angela, can you say it again? Because the chapter is almost over. The man who is accustomed to calling up at will whatever images he pleases will be, by virtue of the power of his imagination, master of his fate. Why? Because you call those things that are not as though they were. You're not using idle words. You say, I am that. I am. And thus, as a man contemplates, so he becomes. I am the resurrection, and I am the life. He that believeth in me, though he were dead, yet shall he live. John 11, verse 25. Ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. Angela, finish, finish. There's one chapter left in the book. Finish it. Chapter 4. No one to change but self. No one to change but yourself. Oh, but I wish George would change. You have control over George's mind? No. George will change when he's good and ready. So there's none to change but you. Don't worry about George. George will change because all will change. So there's none to change but you. Chapter 4. No one to change but self. And for their sakes I sanctify myself, that they also might be sanctified through the truth. John 17, verse 19. The ideal we serve and strive to attain could never be evolved from us were it not potentially involved in our nature. You understand that, right? The ideal we serve and strive to attain could never be evolved from us were it not potentially involved in our nature, as within, so without. So it's got to be in you in order for it to be you on the outside. It is now my purpose to retell and to emphasize an experience of mine printed by me 2 years ago. I believe these quotations from The Search will help us to understand the operation of the law of consciousness and show us that we have no one to change but ourselves. Once in an idle interval at sea, I meditated on the perfect state and wondered what I would be were I of too pure eyes to behold iniquity. In other words, what if my vision was perfect and I could only see the good in the world? If to me all things were pure, and were I without condemnation. As I became lost in this fiery brooding, I found myself lifted above the dark environment of the senses. So intense was feeling, I felt myself a being of fire dwelling in a body of air. Voices as from a heavenly chorus, with the exultation of those who had been conquerors in a conflict with death, were singing, He is risen! He is risen! And intuitively, I knew they meant me. And then I seemed to be walking in the night. I soon came upon a scene that might have been the ancient pool of Bethesda, for in this place lay a great multitude of impotent folk, blind, halt, withered, waiting not for the moving of the water as of tradition, but waiting for me. As I came near, without thought or effort on my part, they were one after the other molded as by the magician of the beautiful. Eyes, hands, feet, all missing members were drawn from some invisible reservoir and molded in harmony with that perfection which I felt springing within me. And when all were made perfect, the chorus exalted, "It is finished." And then the scene dissolved, and I awoke. I know the vision was the result of my intense meditation upon the idea of perfection. For my meditations invariably bring about union with the state contemplated. I had been so completely absorbed within the idea that for a while I had become what I contemplated, and the high purpose with which I had for that moment identified myself drew the companionship of high things and fashioned the vision in harmony with my inner nature. The ideal with which we are united works by association of ideals to awaken 1,000 moods to create a drama in keeping with the central idea. My mystical experiences have convinced me that there is no way to bring about the outer perfection we seek other than by the transformation of ourselves. In the divine economy, nothing is lost. We cannot lose anything save by descent from the sphere where the thing has its natural life. There is no transforming power in death. And whether we are here or there, we fashion the world that surrounds us by the intensity of our imagination and feeling. And we illuminate or darken our lives by the concepts we hold of ourselves. Nothing is more important to us than our conception of ourselves. And especially is this true of our concept of the dimensionally great one within us. Those who help or hinder us, whether they know it or not, are the servants of that law which shapes outward circumstances in harmony with our inner nature. It is our conception of ourselves which frees or constrains us, though it may use material agencies to achieve its purpose, as within, so without. Because life molds the outer world to reflect the inner arrangement of our minds, there's no way of bringing about the outer perfection we seek other than by the transformation of ourselves. No help cometh from without. The hills to which we lift our eyes are those of an inner range. Psalm 121. I will lift up mine eyes to the hills from whence cometh my help. My help cometh from the Lord who made heaven and earth. That's the scripture. But where are those hills, he's saying? Those hills are within. You cannot look to the outside, he says, because life molds the outer world to reflect the inner arrangement of our minds. And there is no way of bringing about the outer perfection we seek other than by the transformation of ourselves. No help cometh from without. The hills to which we lift our eyes are those of an inner range. It is thus to our own consciousness that we must turn as to the only reality, the only foundation on which all phenomena can be explained. We can rely absolutely on the justice of this law to give us only that which is of the nature of ourselves. Oh, I want to read it. Okay. That story took place while Neville was on a boat to Mobile, Alabama, my hometown. My girlfriend's grandmother told me she saw it when she was a little girl. Oh, I got it. Ah, when I touch it, it disappears. And when she was a little girl and she saw a streak of fire flying through the air. Wow. You see? That is amazing, isn't it? I'll put it up there so everybody can read it in the YouTube. Um, there you go. so everybody can read it. That is amazing. Thanks, Cyber. To attempt to change the world before we change our concept of ourselves is to struggle against the nature of things. To attempt to change the world before we change our concept of ourselves is to struggle against the nature of things. I think that's pretty self explanatory, but let's slide in there a little bit. To attempt to change the world. See, we want to change our lives, but you have to change inside, or else you're going to come up against your habits all the time and you will feel, "Hmm, I'm fighting all the time." You're fighting because you have not changed the inner. I know what I'm talking about. How do I know? Because I got my own inner things. That's how come I know. Right? That's how come I know. And believe you me, I have tried to bust down the walls of Jericho on the outside when the walls of Jericho were within my own heart. And all I had to do was change my mental attitude. And the walls on the outside would crumble. Joshua fit the battle of Jericho, Jericho, Jericho. Joshua fit the battle of Jericho, and the walls came tumbling down. That is an old song. I digress. There can be no outer change until there is first an inner change. As within, so without. And don't listen, I'm reading you what Neville wrote. As within, so without. I told you he knew the principles. Ow. I am not advocating philosophical indifference when I suggest that we should imagine ourselves as already that which we want to be, living in a mental atmosphere of greatness, rather than using physical means and arguments to bring about the desired change. Again, I am not advocating philosophical indifference when I suggest that we should imagine ourselves as already that which we want to be. He's not telling you to be indifferent. He's telling you why it happens, how it happens, as within, so without. So living in a mental atmosphere of greatness rather than using physical means and arguments to bring about desired change. Hmm. Everything we do, unaccompanied by a change of consciousness, is but futile readjustment of surfaces. Everything we do, unaccompanied. So if you're going to do something, accompany it with a change of consciousness. However, we toil or struggle, we can receive no more than our assumptions affirm. To protest against anything which happens to us is to protest against the law of our being and our rulership over our own destiny. Don't fight and struggle about what is busted on the outside. Build it, reshape it, mold it on the inside. And then it changes on the outside. Don't scientists tell you with that double slit experiment, when you're looking at it, the little thingies will go through the slit you're looking at? What do you know what that means? It means that it is you who influences the outcome of your life. You're the one looking at it. And as you look at it, you direct it to go a certain way. Hmm. You see, the circumstances of my life are too closely related to my conception of myself, not to have been formed by my own spirit from some dimensionally larger storehouse of my being. If there is pain to me in these happenings, I should look within myself for the cause. For I am moved here and there and made to live in a world in harmony with my concept of myself. Intense meditation brings about a union with the state contemplated. And during this union, we see visions, have experiences, and behave in keeping with our change of consciousness. This shows us that a transformation of consciousness will result in a change of environment and behavior. All wars prove that violent emotions are extremely potent in precipitating mental rearrangements. Every great conflict has been followed by an era of materialism and greed in which the ideals for which the conflict ostensibly were waged and are submerged. Did you get it? Every great conflict has been followed by an era of materialism and greed in which the ideals for which the conflict ostensibly were waged and submerged. As within, so without. This is inevitable because war invokes hate, which impels a descent in consciousness from the plane of the ideal to the level where the conflict is waged. That reminds me of one line. How you gonna win when you ain't right within? Ow, Laura Hill. How you gonna win when you ain't right within? And this is what she says. This is what it's saying. War evokes hate. But from where? The plane of the ideal to the level where the conflict is waged. If we could become as emotionally aroused over our ideals as we become over our dislikes, or we would ascend to the plane of our ideal as easily as we now descend to the level of our hates. Oh, Angela, can you say those two words again? Emotionally aroused. If we could become as emotionally aroused over our ideals as we become over our dislikes. Did you hear it? Do you grasp what that is saying to you? See those things that we talk about that we dislike so much? What if? Because when we talk about the things we dislike so much, right? Oh, we get worked up, don't we? He says emotionally aroused. Don't be blushing because that's not what he's talking about, right? Emotionally aroused. Oh my God, I can't stand you. But what if we could become as emotionally aroused over our ideals? Oh, shoot. We would ascend. That's what he's saying. Because if you descend to the level of that which you hate by becoming emotionally aroused over what you dislike, well, then obviously you would ascend if you became emotionally aroused over that which you loved. Love and hate have a magical transforming power, and we grow through their exercise into the likeness of what we contemplate. By intensity of hatred, we create in ourselves the character we imagine in our enemies. Oh, don't come for me because I'm going to say it. By intensity of hatred, we create in ourselves the character we imagine in our enemies. Which tells you what? You have to become like your enemy. And your enemy is bent on destruction. So, how do you think you can destroy him? You have to become him. So, be careful what you hate. Because in order to hate, you've got to become it. You have to become that which you hate in order to destroy it. But the problem when we become that which we hate, we get stuck there because we can't see that we've become what we hate. I mean, it's just an observation. I'm not just talking to you, I'm talking to me too. I told you this was bedtime, but here we are fired up. I don't know about you. Qualities die for want of attention. So the unlovely states might be rubbed out by imagining beauty for ashes and joy for mourning. Isaiah 61, verse 3. Rather than by direct attacks on the state from which we would be free. Whatsoever things are lovely and of good report, think on these things. Philippians 4, verse 8. For we become that which we are on rapport. Listen, he was a poet and he didn't know it. There is nothing to change but our concept of self. As soon as we succeed in transforming self, our world will dissolve and reshape itself in harmony with that which our change affirms. There concludes out of this world. But you don't want to know what book is next, do you? Let me sip. Feeling is the secret is the next book. Not tonight. You want to start that? You show up here tomorrow, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, Twitter, fan base, where we will talk about it. So you know I'm not going to keep you, but we are going to practice, right? I want you to think about these things. At first, the vigilante seems to be meting out justice, right? But I don't know if you've ever seen the show. Listen, I saw it and I was Punisher, on DC. I saw Punisher. What do you think drove him? Okay, then. Okay. Hatred, anger, rage drove him to act the way that he did. And he was so blinded by it that he didn't think he was doing anything quote unquote wrong. So this is why I say to you tonight, vengeance is mine, saith the Lord. Oh, vengeance. The moment you start to contemplate vengeance, something happens within us. Think about it. You are thinking about harming, right? But this is what vengeance is. Why am I saying this to you? Because we as people tend to justify. I'm saying it without saying it. We tend to want to justify the vigilante or vengeance. It doesn't mean you passively sit by and let people walk all over you. That is not what that is saying. It is saying to you, experience in imagination what you would experience in reality if you had justice. What do you want your justice to look like? Watch your step now. Don't go, as my grandfather would say, don't want for nobody what you wouldn't want for yourself. Well, let me say it to you in English. Don't want for someone what you don't want for yourself. Ooh, glass house. Glass house. Duck, honey, duck. I understand full well. So this is why tonight, as we put our heads down on our pillows, right? Maybe if you're dealing with a little bit of unforgiveness, a little bit of loss, doesn't matter what it is, experience in imagination what you would experience in reality if you were the man or the woman you wanted to be. You don't have time to be wishing ill on nobody. Do you want me to tell you why not? As within, so without. You cannot hold on to that kind of unforgiveness and animosity in your bosom and not experience it in your body and in your environment. I know what I'm talking about. You think it doesn't affect you? So remember, he says if you were as emotionally aroused by the beauty of what you want in your life, put your attention and your effort on that instead of bitching and mooning about what somebody did to you. I'm not telling you it didn't happen. I'm telling you I understand that it did. Tonight, set yourself free. Become emotionally aroused with your freedom. Become emotionally aroused with your freedom. Commit to it. Stand 10 toes down in it. And whatever that thing is on the outside that happened, that occurred, that still kind of leaves a sting, I tell you, before you know it, justice is done. And you'll say, wait, how did that happen? What a coincidence. You know how it happened? Because as we lay here tonight, you became emotionally aroused over what? What you desire, whatever is good, whatever is true, whatever is honest, what is a good report. Think on those things. That is where you put your time, your effort, and your energy. And you said, that is worth way more to me than the other stuff. So try it. You have your freedom to gain. You have peace of mind to gain. You have security to gain. How long you gonna sit here and mull over all these bad things? You are sucking your life out of you. Don't do that. Infuse life into your experiences. So, as we go into the silence, because I've prattled on enough, God knows, know what you want. And then experience in imagination what you would experience in reality if you had it. And then lay still and see the salvation of the Lord. Just lay still. Just lay still and feel. Mm. Let us go into the silence. And there concludes our 5 minutes. I got to shout out everyone who's here tonight. Twitter is as Twitter is. Banana King, Cyber, Soul of a Man, John, Anthony, Wisdom Almighty, and Miss Fawn, KZ, Flo, Smiles, Ray Ray. I am that deal. So 4 and 2 are 6. There's one person on the web. Now, I don't know who that one person on the web is, but howdy. Howdy, y'alls. Huh, yes. And so, thank you all for, uh, oh, um, Core said, uh, he enjoyed the conversation and he's glad he came over and he'll come back. That is so nice. That is nice. Um, Thank you all for being here tonight and hanging out, spending time with us. But most importantly, know what you want. Experience in imagination what you would experience in reality. And lay still and feel. And as you feel, immerse yourself in it. In other words, become emotionally aroused and then fall asleep. Oh, indeed. Indeed, my beautiful friends. Freedom was here. I remember seeing freedom when I came over on Fanbase to mute the mic. Oh, I remember seeing freedom. I sure did. Anywho, let's get that nighttime chime, shall we? Countdown initiated. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Thank you all for being here. And I'll see you on the morrow. Indeed. 7 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, Twitter, and Fanbase. I love you all. And I look forward to seeing you. Much love. And to the person, I don't even know if he's still in the chat on YouTube. He said my gap is as big as the Grand Canyon. So it is. And I like it like that. Ow. As a mighty sparrow would say. If you don't know Calypso, I'm not going to repeat what the mighty sparrow said about gaps. But let me just say to you this. My gap is mine. And I love it. Indeed, I do. Mm. And thank you for loving it too. Anywho, I love you all. I'll see you on the morrow. I do love my gap, man. Like, oh, it's brilliant. Even my niece has one. So mine's the biggest one. Anywho, I love you guys. Peace out.